Okay, hello StoneShardigans. This is going to be the StoneShard news for the past year. What do I mean by that? Since we've been getting a continuous trickle of news since March 2023 up until now, and I was going to go on an expletive-laden rant. I was waiting for this one branch of the Caravan upgrade tree, the 4th branch, because that's the one I'm the most interested in, and it still hasn't happened. It's been a year. Like, a couple days ago, they dropped Caravan Updates Part 3, and I looked at it, and I was kind of excited, and then I read what it was. I read that it was, it was traveling bonuses. You have the hitching post, you have the chest, that's your inventory. This is your mobile inventory. So, needless to say, I'm sorry the video is being done this way. You know when someone has like an abusive relationship with like a spouse, a pet, something like that, they're like, oh, you did it to yourself. This is kind of my view on StoneShard at this point. Just let me get this off my chest, alright? So Gates of Hell, which is another game I make content for, had a big update drop that changed the sound. It seems to have changed how the AI functions. They added new stuff. They added the DD tank, the DD Sherman, the submersible. All sorts of cool stuff, right? MechWarrior 5 has the massive Solaris Showdown DLC that makes it so you can take contracts in civilian areas, and they're all like arena gladiator combat, okay? And that game is broken. Like, make no mistake about it, that DLC is pretty flawed right now. The update broke a lot of things. And you also have MechWarrior Online running a massive event in preparation for them adding new guns for the first time in a while, new weapons, sorry, on the 17th of March. Okay, so you have all these things happening, right? And then at my news desk, because it's a very professional operation, Caravan Upgrades 3, which is, it's like the most basic, to me, uninteresting thing you could imagine. And now I've got to wait for 4. And I was thinking to myself, I'm not waiting for Caravan Upgrades Part 4 to make my video, so I'm going to make it now. So I'm sorry, this is going to be more of a stream of consciousness. This is going to be more how I actually speak or whatever. I'm going to try and edit it down so it's not just me ranting unedited. I apologize to those of you that would like another video in the style of the first StoneShard news video, but that's not happening. Because for one, I've got so much to cover, and for two, so much of it is without substance. Ooh, that's catty. Okay, so let's get into this. I have a little map here, and I just want to say that I tried to coagulate. I tried to get all of the non-hotfix update things. So we have like 8 things here, right? So this might be a bit of a long one. So these few, I didn't do all of the dates, but these are like early this year. March 2024, December 2023, November 2023, November 6th. This was the equipment update, May 2023, which to me is like the last update. Like, I think the equipment update was pretty much the last thing, aside from the wraiths being added and some changes around that. I think they added, was that with equipment? I might actually be like going completely insane here. And this is the fun of it, because I could, you know, meticulously research this, but this is more fun for me. What's important is that I'm having fun. Were the wraiths added in this update, or was it in the August one? That's all I'm trying to figure out here, sorry. Okay, I have this thing, I'm pretty meticulous. I cannot stand the idea of like being wrong about something or misinformation or what have you. Okay, so I think I didn't actually include this in my original list, which is good. You were here to see this happen. This was in September. Oh god, oh god, this is embarrassing. Cut this out, me. Don't the viewers know how stupid I am. Okay, all right. So we have a sliding scale here from stuff that's regarding the next big content update to some of the stuff that's already released and stuff they've talked about. Now you're probably wondering, the reason that I'm bringing up stuff that already released is because the first talk about some of the stuff that hasn't been introduced in the game yet was in March of 2023, which means they announced a lot of this stuff and then 2 big content drops happened and it's not in the game yet. I don't know how it works. The last time they talked about it was a year ago. It could be completely different now. They might mention it in passing with some of the devlogs. I was going to make like a 15-minute rant just around this subject, but it is extremely difficult to maintain interest in this game when it takes a year plus for content to come out, when there are other indie games that can do a lot more in that time. I think some people take that lack of interest and turn it into frustration and get really, really mad at StoneShard. But the only thing that frustrates me about StoneShard is that they add broken things to the game and then never fix them. And I just think it's, you know, it's something that is probably going to burden this game until the end of its lifespan, where it's like, if you're very worried about polish or things being broken, the response from the devs in the community is to hit the door, to leave Jack. And a long time ago, someone brought to my attention that the devs are kind of beefing with the modding community. So you can't just say, we'll mod it to your liking, like with, let's say, Stalker or something. I love using Stalker as an example. So for that reason, I think StoneShard is very frustrating to some people. And I don't think the devs are ever going to change their course. Like, I don't think they're ever going to change their course that, like, having a dog is impossible in this game. Even if it was just like, hey devs, like, what if the dog was part of the Caravan system? They're just like, no, that's not possible. The dog would die in this world, except for the one in Osbrook. That one's immortal. Do I even have... I don't want to fucking look for B-roll of that. I probably have B-roll of the dog. Throw B-roll of the dog in. Anyways, without further ado, I'm going to try and limit my complaining to that, and I'll try and stay on topic. So for those of you that haven't been following the updates closely or kind of curious as to what's been happening, I'm going to try and outline it to the best of my ability. I'm already drunk. No, it's morning. We don't start till noon hits here in the Dead End Studio complex. So, as I may have mentioned, we're going to go on this adventure together. I kind of barely read through Caravan Updates Part 3 because it is so fucking boring, and it's trying to make it exciting, but it's kind of not. This time, the focus is on the third category, traveling. As a reminder, Caravan upgrades are not abilities and therefore don't require ability points. Instead, they're unlocked with items and materials. That's for the glue eaters in the audience who think upgrading your fucking Caravan would take your character's skill points, of which you get 30 in the fucking game. I'm gonna swear in this one. No, I'm gonna censor it. Let's give these upgrades some context. Okay, I'm gonna cut through the bullshit here. These upgrades are all around logistics and traveling. Okay, there is nothing here that when you see the first upgrade, you will be surprised by the final upgrade. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, the Caravan works... Okay, this is interesting, to be fair. I was being a little harsh. Caravan travels with... Cut that. Caravan travels will work by the following rules. Your destination must fit two main requirements. Firstly, it must not be concealed by fog of war tiles. The Caravan can't travel through uncharted territories. Secondly, the tiles must not contain dungeon. Points of interest, roads, or bodies of water. Only empty tiles are suitable for setting up the Caravan camp. Another thing to consider is how close your Caravan will be to settlements. You have a limited max travel distance that can be increased with upgrades. Caravan moves at varying speeds. Don't really know exactly how this will work. Obviously, in this beautiful little GIF here, there's like an hour. There's an hour meter, depending on how far you're going. That's lovely. Before you move out, you'll need a sufficient... fuck, I can't speak. Cut that. You'll need a sufficient stockpile of fodder. So this is part of the new food crafting system. You can make a type of food called fodder, which is where you take food items and you basically turn it into fuel for the horses. It is fuel. You're making a fuel canister for the horses. It's hay. Okay, that's all that's happening here. Then there's this cool little animation. Isn't that neat? That looks ridiculously silly, and I love it. I want the entire game to have that kind of aesthetic, a goofy aesthetic. There'll be a limit on how often you can travel. After you travel, there'll be a cooldown period where the Caravan needs to rest, because of course there is. God forbid you just travel everywhere in this game. Now we're done with the mechanics, onto the upgrades. Those are some complex mechanics, guys. You need fuel for the vehicle, and then the vehicle needs to stop in a space that you've already explored and isn't occupied by a hostile enemy dungeon. This is getting crazy. Fallout 2? Fallout 1? No, this is fucking crazy pills. Okay, so you have the traveling mechanics. Hitching post. Gives you access to traveling. So this isn't even a real upgrade. That just comes with it. Old cart. Sets the base distance at 20 tiles. Worn chest. Gives you the default fucking storage. Sturdy wheels. Plus 25% distance and speed. Ironbound wheels. Minus 33% caravan duration. Minus 10% traveling costs. Reduces the cooldown on the caravan option. Minus 10% on traveling costs. What are traveling costs? Does that mean fuel? Does that mean you have to pay the horse money because you're moving somewhere? I don't know. Maybe we'll find out in the next update. Chest increases your fucking inventory capacity. I think my favorite game, Escape from Tarkov, has this feature too. Fitting accoutrements, caravan speed, costs, caravan restoration distance. Okay, those are the updates. That's it. I'm sorry that I seem like agitated by this, but this is a complete nothing burger. I do want to specify that one thing that's interesting is that this will add a whole new crafting system where you will need to make some of the things or buy some of the materials to make these upgrades, which I think is a really good move for StoneShard, because StoneShard, much like Fallout 3, sorry, I'm not super familiar with Fallout 3, but like Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 3 versus Fallout 4, I think the collecting mini game of Fallout 4 where you need stuff for like upgrades for weapons, upgrades for your settlements, I think that's a really good game mechanic for any game to have, because it's very fun. It's very dopamine inducing to be like, ooh, do I need this wheel? It might only be worth 10 gold, but like, will merchants have it? It creates a little more dynamic in the loot you pick up rather than just how much gold per square it's worth. So I think that is a definitely a good move forward. So I just want to specify that because that is something interesting to pay attention to as we're looking through this. There's all sorts of different materials it requires, some of which are already in the game, which is cool. Also, there is a food crafting system. If you're not aware of that, I'm going to be talking about that update probably later in this video. I will timestamp this as best as I can, so you do not have to watch me rant. That's just a little heads up. Next one, StoneShard dungeon generation. Okay, so we're getting off from the Caravan content. They're reworking the dungeon generation. I don't know if you've heard about this. This is the next big push forward. This is the next big movement. I'm gonna spark notes this. There isn't a lot of visual variety in dungeons. All dungeons use the same generation algorithm, which limits the room for structural distinction and environmental logic. The overall room structure and abundance of single-tile passages facilitates the funneling of enemies into doorways, trivializing both combat and positioning. Our new approach is based on dungeon tiers. Initially, tiers were an informal term used by players to refer to dungeons based on their difficulty. In rags to riches, In rags to riches, they will become an official form of categorization. So instead of using hidden rudimentary mechanics built around levels, this new system splits everything, be it enemies, items, or dungeons, into 5 distinct tiers. Let's explore what it entails, point by point. Different dungeons use different generation rules. There will be a big difference between the different types of dungeons. Dungeons will feature varying visuals and room presets based on the tier. So it says tier 4 and 5 dungeons in particular will look especially awe-inspiring. That inspires awe in me. Many ways. It inspires awe in my pants. Looking at a little dirt one over there. Hey boo. All dungeons will be split into 2 categories, generic and large, the latter consisting of 2 floors. We don't have plans to introduce dungeons deeper than that. 2 floors would be too tiresome and draining in most scenarios. The visuals will change depending on what floor you're on. Rooms with bosses or contract objectives will spawn in dungeons farthest reaches, with secondary rooms branching off from the main path rather than being a part of it, giving you options for additional exploration. I think this is really interesting because originally I was under the impression that generally I find this really interesting because my initial impression was that the dungeon generation that's already in the game would try and place the boss rooms as far from the entrance as possible. Reading this infers that that is not in fact the case, which is surprising to me. I think this is definitely a good idea. With most of this dungeon generation stuff, I am hesitant to form an opinion on it until I actually see it. For all I know, the changes they're making to dungeon generation will just make them much prettier, but just as formulaic. That's kind of harsh criticism, but that's how I approach most things like this. But if it does work out, that's really cool. I think it'll make StoneShard a much better game if there's that much more variety. Also, some of these new tiles look amazing. The sprite artists for StoneShard are and always have been amazing. We decided to almost completely do away with single tile passageways. This is bad for me, which should bring more additional depth to the combat system and positioning by making group fights more frequent or even inevitable in some situations. Obviously, this comes with tweaks to most enemies' stats, especially higher tier ones. I'm almost 50-50 on this. I think the problem is that, am I not correct in saying that there are some builds that do worse in single tile funneling than in open spaces? Maybe I'm just like completely off the mark on that. I just feel like with certain builds like two-handed axes and like greatswords, wouldn't you not? I mean, I guess you always want to funnel enemies because it's just better. But what I'm reading from this is just that they're going to nerf the high tier enemies. Am I crazy for that? Might be a little off base for that one. I'm sorry, boys. Sometimes you got to drop a little hot take to, you know, feed the algorithm, get that engagement. Rather than remaining the same once they spawn, dungeons will be generated when you enter them for the first time, just like in the earlier versions. Okay, so if you save scum, the dungeons will always be different, which I remember that in StoneShard. Personally, I don't care if it's one way or the other. The only pro, I think, for having dungeons remain the same on save scumming is it allows you to retry the same dungeon over and over again and practice the game and see where you went wrong, you know, whatever. But once you kind of get past that stage, it's obviously more fun to have it be different every single time, especially if you get like really bad RNG, I suppose. And also it's possible to practice without just reloading the same save and running it down in the same dungeon. So, I mean, I guess for me, like I should be happy about that because I do stream StoneShard, or at least I claim I do. Secret rooms will be generated once per dungeon instead of once per floor. The roster of available secret rooms and their visuals will also depend on the dungeon's tier. Does this mean there will always be a secret room? What does this mean? Does this mean there will cut that? Does this mean there will always be a secret room in the dungeon? We decided to rework the noise and enemy awareness system as the old ones didn't work well with the new dungeon layouts. Let's have a new look at the crypt specific features. There are new dungeon based effects. Each dungeon type will have its own complications, like the crypt might have miasma gas. The varied and unusual objects of the reworked contract system will affect dungeon layouts as well. For instance, Well of Souls will serve as spawning points for wraiths, and the Holy Figurine contract will work quite differently from how it does now. So, given the time in between updates, I would expect to be able to tell you more about this in 4 months from now. 4 months, so, you know, I'll get back to you in July about that when I know more about what the contract system actually is going to look like here in 2024. That was a callback. That's for the OGs. For all you waiting for the new contract system. We also changed how the loot functions. Okay, excellent. Consumable crafting. Oh, this is earlier in my slide deck than I thought. Rags to Riches, the crafting system. It allows the creation of consumables and similar objects. The idea of crafting complex gear and equipment was discarded very early on. It wouldn't mesh well with the main game and adventuring as a mercenary. On top of that, crafting weapons and armor would be so cumbersome. Therefore, our crafting system will only revolve around consumables and utility items, and that makes the most sense in the gameplay loop. Crafting is performed through a dedicated menu, which can be accessed in 3 ways: by using the crafting basing ability, cut that, interacting with a workbench such as the one you can upgrade your caravan with, or by using a crafting kit. In order to create an item, you'll need to possess both the correct ingredients and the knowledge. In the beginning, your character will only know how to craft the most simple items. The schematics will need to be found, looted, or purchased from traders. This is crazy stuff here. Schematics are split into 2 categories, basic and advanced. Basic can be crafted anywhere, anytime. All you need are ingredients. Advanced can't be followed through without workbench or crafting kit. They will give you experience. We're going to add many new consumables. It's worth mentioning that this new system will change bedrolls and campfires. Bedrolls will no longer require you to learn any skills to craft them. Okay, now we're getting crazy. While campfires will be created using a special crafting item, a bundle of brushwood. Fellas, we're getting a bundle of sticks in StoneShard. Cut that. Fucking cut that. Consequently, the survival ability tree saw some significant tweaks too. Now has a more flexible structure. Some of its skills were heavily revised. Each character will also start with butchering. A new survival skill. Cut that. Each character will also start with butchering, a new survival skill that allows you to harvest meat from dead beasts without investing any AP. Skinning and looting rare ingredients, on the other hand, will require you to learn the dedicated passive. That's crazy. People weren't investing one of their limited 30 ability points into the fucking utility skill of skinning animals. Why would people not make their character intentionally weaker so they can skin meat and make 50 gold crowns? There's someone that's gonna watch this and they're gonna despise me. How dare you talk negatively about StoneShard? Additionally, the crafting system will allow your character to create fodder, a research used to fuel your caravan travels. We talked about this earlier because I'm going in the wrong order. Any foodstuff suitable for horses, grain, straw, apples, and carrots, even some herbs. Using grain will yield the most fodder. That's all for now. Check out this cool fucking hut. Caravan upgrades part 2. Hello everyone, we're going to continue exploring the caravan upgrade system, which brings us to the second tree. Restoration tree. We're going in reverse, mind you. This tree is all I want to see. It's probably going to be nothing. This pigeon and the deal and this contract, it's probably nothing. It's probably going to be like plus 5% money for contracts. Carrier pigeon unlocks the ability to send a pigeon to accept contracts for you. Let me guess. Market share. Plus 10% to trading. We'd like to remind you that caravan upgrades are completely separate from the leveling system and don't require ability points. All upgrades are unlocked exclusively by purchasing prerequisite items. Wait a minute, hold up, roll it back, rewind the tape, enhance. I thought you could craft these items, you have to purchase all of them? I can't craft like a fucking wheel? My guy's gonna be out here making fucking potions and he can't make a wheel? My character's fucking stupid. Restoration, start, get a bad bed, shitty tent. Sleeping at the caravan reduces fatigue 100% more effectively. Oh, that is the only level 1 upgrade. Why even have it? Am I going bonkers? Small tent. Crafting ingredients. You know what? Let me zoom in for the fellows. For the fellows in the back, I can't see too good. Sleeping at the caravan reduces fatigue 100% more effectively. Roomy tent. Sleeping at the caravan grants vigor. So until you get, let's see here. Canvas, rope, spools of thread, and straw. And then This is the hard part. You have to get the hardy tent cloth, which will be a rare unlockable item for 1,000 crowns. I hope they make it so this only spawns in Bryn or some other bullshit. Oh wait, you'd be in Bryn because you have the caravan. So that point doesn't cut that. Rope, spool of thread, straw. Sleeping at the caravan gives you vigor. Shrines, dwarves, and offering spot. So what this means is that for that little dwarf character, that little dwarf fellow, whose name I definitely know, but I'm just not saying to test you. If you know the name of the dwarf character in StoneShard, post it in the comments. So it'll add elves too. We might get our first elf character. That'd be huge, as a huge elfophile. So it adds a praying spot for your religion. This will be the first time the dwarf is able to actually pray in this game. In the current version of the game, when you go to a shrine, they say, I'm a secularist, actually. I'm actually dwarfish orthodox. Thank you very much. I'm not praying at this heathen shrine like a Chad. Allows your characters to pray. When your characters meditate, they get peace of mind. Shrine offering spot. Allows your character to call upon their ancestors to receive ancestors' gaze. The effect lasts indefinitely, scales with enemies killed, and is removed upon receiving low health. By the way, when I'm talking about how Caravan update 3 is like not interesting at all. Cut that up, but I butchered the line delivery. By the way, when I'm talking about like the Caravan Part 3 updates are just not interesting at all, this is what I mean, because that's insane. That's definitely going to make this character, Yorgrim, it's going to make him much more fun. It's going to make him much more engaging for the player, which is the most important thing. Training area installs 2 training dummies, which can be used to test your character's damage and try out abilities. Now, I usually use the dogs in StoneShard for this, the ones in Osbrook, so I think this will be probably not the most useful feature for me. But for those of you that want to check out your damage versus unarmored and heavily armored characters, this will be huge for you. Soothing incenses restores your psyche, literally useless. Herbal remedies. Each hour of sleep. Oh god, sorry, this one actually has a lot. Sleeping at the caravan restores health and body parts condition 50% more effectively. Each hour of sleep gives you 1% immunity, 1.5% if you also have the foraging supplies upgrade unlocked. So that's definitely something I would look into, especially because I don't know what the apothecary box is. Some of these things look like they might be, a bit rare or hard to find, but if it is easy to find, I would definitely take this. That seems pretty cool. Immunity is something that's kind of frustrating to restore. The current version is StoneShard, so that's all neat stuff. Let's go to the next one. Devlog Cooking. So part of the crafting system is you will be able to cook! Important note, the effects, prices, and availability of most existing foods will be rebalanced in rags to riches. The numbers you see on the screenshot are also subject to change. Guys, it's gonna change. Okay, there's gonna be some big changes around here. There's a new big dick in charge. There's a new Tito dick in charge. Okay, Phil. Phil, look at my crafting menu. Is it not beautiful?
Oh, jeez, Granddad, you're cooking some acorns, man. That shit's whack, yo.
That's what the Nutshag characters would see if they saw this. Cut that whole section out. Basic actions in the cooking of dishes. Basic actions include roasting and meat salting, something I do with the homies on the daily. I'm gonna lose so many fucking subs from this video. Cut that whole thing. Salting requires any type of meat and a few handfuls of salt. Once preserved, meat loses some of its nutritional value, but can be stored indefinitely, which is quite convenient during prolonged expedition. Why am I reading this? You salt the meat, it preserves it, okay? I don't know, sorry, I got stuck. This is fucking hypnotizing me. Maybe stuck in a trance. So yeah, there's going to be region-specific recipes, which is definitely really cool. I'm definitely interested in seeing if I'm sorry, I don't know his name, the foreigner, like, fishing merchant. There's a weird guy that just sells, like, raw meat in Bryn at the docks. I wonder if he'll have, like, a weird foreign, recipe you can get, or maybe some sort of interaction like that. Like, that stuff would definitely make StoneShard very interesting. But there's going to be Osbrook Bread Bowl Stew in Osbrook that you can purchase once you get Respect. Manshire Fare Salad in Bryn, Harpy Omelette a la Bryn. There are over 37 different recipes, but their total number might grow by the time Rags of Riches is out. That's awesome. Look at that delicious food. You've got the recipe. What's next? Firstly, you need an open fire. Then you'll have to place a pot on top of it. Tavern fireplaces and campsites already have pots. You don't need to bring one for any fires you start yourself. Although not every recipe requires a pot, you can make some meals without the pot. Once this part is over, you can start adding the ingredients. In some recipes, you can vary the ingredients pretty liberally. This is for all the libs in the audience. If you cook a vegetable salad, any vegetable type ingredient will do. Other recipes might require a specific item like garlic, onion, or leek. Keep in mind that the end result will always look the same and always have the same effect, regardless of the exact ingredients used. It's like a school teacher or something. They're trying to keep us in check. All right, keep your expectations limited, buddy. Still, some recipes have a place for additional additives that will imbue dishes with extra effects, like salt doubling the expiration time. Butter will give it a bonus to hunger existence, and rare spices. All in all, we're going to change a lot of stuff. Also, they're going to change satiety. There'll be an additional stack of it, and you can get some other cool bonuses. Cut that. Once you're done cooking, food can be eaten from the pot. But if you want to eat it later, you have to put it on a plate. Fascinating stuff. Caravan upgrades part 1. So we're going back in time. This is November of 2023. We've traveled back in time to last year. I don't know how to there's so much here for so little. This is a home base. You can customize it. It'll be mobile. Again, the caravan can only travel onto empty map tiles. You'll have to explore the areas first. The fuel for the caravan is fodder, which you'll have to feed your horses. Third, each journey has a cooldown, as both the horses and Varen will need to rest. In general, the optimal strategy is to park the caravan in a spot between multiple locations you want to visit. At the moment, we're experimenting with the cooldown duration. Currently, the base value is a day and a half, which can be shortened to half a day through the upgrades. Go to the dungeon, clear it out, come back, sleep for a full 24 hours, go back to whatever town you went to. It's like one of those things. Upgrades can be accessed by interacting with Varen's ledger. There's going to be 4 categories: provision, fuel, something else. There's going to be 4 categories. As we've seen, 3 of them have come out since November of 2023. What are the 4 types? Wait, communication. The last one is called communication. So if you want your communications degree, you're going to definitely want to go into this category with the pigeon. That one right there. So, provisions, fire pit. Available from the start, doesn't matter. Cooking spot, requires a cauldron and coal. Allows you to cook complex dishes. Special spices. Food spoils 75% slower while inside the caravan storage. Cooking at the camp replenishes a certain amount of sanity based on the recipe's rarity. Workbench, adds a workbench that can craft moderately complex consumables. Alchemy station, allows you to brew potions but does nothing now. Sorry. Alchemy station is used to brew potions, but that's not in the game yet, so it'll allow you to create medicals for yourself. Foraging supplies, adds a foraging table, allowing Varen and followers to capitalize on nature's bounty while you're busy adventuring. Once per day, it will generate a certain amount of herbs, berries, and mushrooms. Their type depending on the current biome. Some of the gathered herbs can then be turned into fodder to fuel your future travels, while mushrooms and berries can be used for cooking. Are they going to be like reworking the entire world map? When have you been playing StoneShard and you're just like, God damn, I really can't find any mushrooms or berries about. I wish there was a way for them to be delivered straight to me. I really need mushrooms and berries. I'm being a bit cynical there. Mobile coop, you can get a chicken coop. That gives you chickens. They will lay eggs, and you can also slaughter the chickens, but then just like in the real world, it takes time for them to respawn. My chickens never respawned. I ate them, they never came back. Look at all this tasty food again. We saw that in the other update that we just looked at, which was in the future. So like a few months later, they reposted that for the chat. They're like, hey, A-loggers, check out this nice food sprite. Equipment 3, I'm just bringing this up to say this was May of 2023. This update is compatible with old saves. We still recommend you start a new game. Added all sorts of new cool stuff. Added new skill trees. Very cool stuff. So that was May of last year. We don't really need to go over that. Final thing, okay? And I'm going to look over the other ones, but this is the final thing. And why am I bringing this up? Because this was almost exactly a year ago. So 1 year ago today, they talked about the Rags to Riches update. Earliest feature. A year ago, they talked about the settlement outskirts and new bags. I made a video on this. I think it did reasonably well, and people were kind of interested in what I have to say. Not sure that's going to maintain for this one, but just for those of you that missed that video or need a refresher, they talked about how the next update would be adding the Caravan system, which is a feature that's been promised for this game for a long time. I believe since the Kickstarter, could be wrong in that. Future me, put on screen if I'm right or not. I just want to say that one of the big things is that when you accept contracts, there will be different types of NPCs that offer contracts. Officials, captains, and couriers. Captains won't pay as much, but will give you extra reputation. Officers will split the reputation, officials will split the reputation boost between all settlements of their faction, of which there's not too many in StoneShard at the moment, so that's pretty good. Couriers won't actually hand out quests, but will give you rewards for completing contracts that require you to receive certain items. Bringing those directly to a courier will earn you extra gold. I still have no idea what the fuck this means. I don't know if this means okay, hear me out. I understand what it means, But does this mean that you turn it into the courier and you lose 500 reputation with that city? Does it mean you turn it into the courier and this guy won't offer you a contract for a week? Or is the courier giving you, who gives you the contract? Does the pigeon give you the contract? Where does the pigeon fit into this? The pigeon could be a courier for all I know. Additionally, contract rewards can be received from any of these NPCs regardless of your initial quest giver, thus breaking the routine of walking the same roads over and over again. So instead of having to stick to settlement, you'll be able to receive a contract in a village, clear out its dungeon, get your reward in a nearby outskirt, grab a new contract there, sell your loot, replenish supplies optionally, then head straight to the next dungeon. Cut that whole section of me ranting. All outskirts can be split between 3 categories: military camps and outposts, trade posts and production sites, homesteads, and roadside inns. They mentioned that the trade posts and production sites, the rough equivalency would be the mill in Osbrook, which has been in the game for a very long time. Shout out to the mill in Osbrook. Osbrook has a roadside tower now. The Drunken Woodsman is a safe haven for any traveler, so now Osbrook, I guess, has a tavern in the outskirts. The New Orchard, the southern outpost of Manshire. Then there's the new backpacks. I don't want to talk about the new backpacks. I still think, I'm predicting the worst. Like, have you ever heard that phrase, like, hope for the best, but expect the worst? That's where I'm at with StoneShard. So I'm expecting the backpack system to be a massive L, and I will celebrate. We'll see though, just because it messes my own personal game flow, which is unacceptable. Devlog current process of progress. This is the first time they mentioned the cooking mechanics, outside of maybe like hinting at it or saying we want to add it in the future. I believe this is the first time they showed screenshots and stuff. This is also when they talked about adding the wraiths. This was August of 2023. I'm sorry this is out of order, but I consider this a side thing to the Caravan updates. I could be wrong about that being the first time they mentioned cooking or showed it, but just wanted to include that to like be like, new enemies are cool, the map system was cool. I like the Paymaster enemy, I think that's cool. Stats page, content patch changelog. This is when the wraiths were added, September of 2023, all sorts of cool new stuff. That's it for my slideshow. So yeah, so I guess I started off this video like exceptionally salty, but I think I cut that. I think I started off this video like exceptionally salty, but maybe you can understand where I'm coming from, where like the things that are interesting to me right now are like the massive new MechWarriors 5 DLC, the stuff going on in MWO, Battletech as a whole. I've gotten some really good responses to my Irby videos. Gates of Hell remains interesting to me. I don't really see how I can maintain excitement for StoneShard. Like at this point, my rough prediction for this update at this point, and this might sound really cynical, my prediction would be August of this year. That's what I'm going with. So if it comes out like next month, I apologize for being so pessimistic, being so sag, but considering the fact it's been like a 4-month gap in between updates and we're at 3 out of 4, the pacing just insinuates that to me. I don't think it's anything to be angry about. I think some people get really, really mad about it. But for me, it's more so just that StoneShard lacks a certain amount of polish and it lacks a lot of features. And that's what makes the gameplay loop almost especially frustrating. It's very fun, but I think you hit a limit where it stops being interesting. It's very fun, but I think you hit a limit where it just stops really being that engaging. The only thing left to do is to just try new weapon builds. And if you just don't like the weapon build, it's like, all right, well, let me reroll that. Cut that. That doesn't even make sense. But I think the Rags to Riches update will probably be very good when it comes out. I just don't really see how I don't see how I could feign interest until that point, is kind of where I'm at now. And when I see the StoneShard updates, I'm never really excited anymore because I don't expect something to like actually happen. Like this update, all it says to me is that one day this mechanic will be in StoneShard. And I first started getting that feeling a few months ago. And every time like nothing happens, it kind of just feels the same. Like I don't know how to explain it because it feels unfair to say, because they did have the equipment update and they did add like new enemy types and like do little things on the side. So it's not like nothing was added, but it definitely feels like the same game to me. And also when they talk about adding new outskirts and new settlements, it's like, okay, so is that going to be more towns that have NPCs with no dialogue, like named NPCs that really don't do anything? This is in stark contrast with like, if we're going to compare it to like Elder Scrolls games, maybe that's like kind of the Daggerfall's approach, but even then in Daggerfall you could do more with the NPCs, or like in Morrowind you could do more with a generic NPC than you can in StoneShard. And I don't really know what the fix for that is, because I'm assuming it would be very, very difficult to like implement that whole system of like NPCs having town specific dialogue, or like, you know, the player being able to ask them stuff. But so like when you add an outskirt, there could be 20 people in the outskirts location, right? But you can only talk to 2 of them. And if you can talk to 2 of them, one's a vendor, or 2 are the innkeepers, right? And then maybe there's like some people that have like a single dialogue interaction. It just feels like Everything in StoneShard is like, it's very beautiful because of the sprite work, but aside from that, it's like the most functional, bare bones interpretation, not interpretation, cut that. It's like the functional, it is the most bare bones, like functional implementation of said thing. It's like I go through, spoilers, sorry. It's like when you're going through the Manticore quest and you're told the entire time that like, if you do the secret ending, if you throw the potion at him and you save the guy as opposed to killing him, you unlock a new special NPC, and then you can go to him and he's like a unique vendor or something, right? And then you go there and it's like, oh, I'm the secret guy. Pay me 2,000 crowns and I'll tell you where a high-level dungeon is. It's like, okay, so that's like all the other rumor traders in the game, but I guess this guy's better at it. But like the guy's lore is that he's like a scientist or like an alchemist. So I'd think that he would just sell you like really good potions or something. Like sometimes it doesn't even make sense. Similar to how Jurg during the brewery quest is like, you know, no one else here respects you, but I do. And like from what I saw, it doesn't even seem like he gives you a discount anymore. I feel like, I mean, I streamed all this, so I should have B-roll of it. But I feel like you used to get a discount from Jurg, and I feel like that's just broken now. So it's like the characters really don't have any personality. Like the part of the RPG that's engaging with characters doesn't exist at all. Like Odar is like, oh, he's this villain in Osbrook, and you run this whole quest where you find out he's like a criminal mastermind, and then you lose 300 reputation, you do a few contracts, and it's just forgotten about. Like, he doesn't even care anymore. No one mentions it. Like when I say this stuff, I feel like the response is like, well, what do you expect them to do? Yeah, I understand. That would be very difficult for them to change that or make it. I feel like the level of complexity I'm asking for would be like very, very difficult. So I guess it feels like a very big ask, or like it feels really unreasonable. But then I think back to like really small games that are able to do that. I don't understand at what point RPG games like have to have good NPCs or like good characters. Because I feel like even Kenshi, I can think of even other like indie RPGs that are able to do that. So I don't really understand why StoneShard like can't. It's got the whole 90s RPG feel, but it completely is missing the like, oh, if you go into this town, this character will pickpocket you, and it starts a side quest where like you have to go fight him, or you have to go track him down to get the item he stole back. And like when I went there, he stole my best weapon, so I had a really bad weapon the entire time. Like that doesn't exist in StoneShard. That's like a fantasy. You have to make that up in your head. You have to LARP. This also goes back to like implementing the crime and prison system, but it's just completely broken and non-functional to where you can like starve to death. And then if you complain about it, I'm assuming people will be like, well, it was medieval times. You could starve to death in medieval times. And it's like, that's not really the complaint. The complaint is that there's a game mechanic in the game that's not functional, and it will probably not be functional for a long time. Like if I noticed something broken in StoneShard, my ETA for a fix would be like maybe 2 years. 1 to 2 years would be my best guess. Like the Manticore occupying the same tile as the player, I'm guessing it'll be 2025 when that's fixed. So yeah, sorry to be a bit of a negative Nancy. This is how I do, dude. Let's check the negative reviews. There should be a time limit for early access. I discovered this game around the time I met my wife. Now we have a happy marriage. We're not actively trying, but I think we could have a baby before this game is released. However, I'm hopeful that the game will reach the final version before our unborn child starts elementary school. I hate to say this about a game I've been following since the beginning, but I feel like they are never going to finish this game. At this moment, don't waste your money on this game. Brutally difficult but fun game. Take my advice and save/sleep often to keep from redoing the same dungeon or mission over and over and over. You won't make it a few more rooms. Just leave and save. Help yourself. Vaporware. Game was slated for release in 2018 or 2019. Let's see what the response was. Did they own them? It's a game that was announced to be released in 2019 has very little to do with the modern state of StoneShard, as the development was restarted after Kickstarter based on the feedback from our backers and closed alpha testers. Everything from the lore and visuals to the core mechanics was reworked to have a much greater depth and complexity than initially planned. Okay, so this gives me fodder. If you started in 2020 and it's 2024, I understand games have pre-production. Many devs don't have the luxury of having $20 million. That's what I'm alleging the StoneShard devs have now, by the way. I made that up. I don't know the number. But then you have games like I've been playing Regiments recently, where they're releasing their first DLC now. They haven't had a DLC this entire time. It's $20 right now. I recommend it if you're into like Warno and stuff. I don't want to say it's easier, but it's definitely a little simpler, but it's still got a nice like tactical feel to it, and it's very customizable. It's pretty fun. And this game, like, I don't know how long it was in development, because Steam does a cute little thing now where if a game's early access, they'll put the release date, so you don't know how long it's been on Steam. Let's just look up Regiments game. Don't look at my search history. So the Regiment's announcement teaser was in 2020, and the game released in 2022, right? So that's like 2 years to make a massive game that's more functional than StoneShard. And I believe the team for Regiments, the Microprose team, is actually much smaller. It's like 3 people. I'm not saying StoneShard is a huge team, but I feel it's a smaller team. I think it's through Unity, so it's... I don't know. They're like not comparable as games, but I just question like at what point you're just moving slowly, or your pace is just absurdly slow, right? I feel like this has become more and more of an issue in games. Like the first game that started to annoy me with this is Bannerlord, where it's like, yeah, one day it'll be great, but for all the people that are early access testing or pre-ordering and doing that stuff, they get the bad end of the bargain. The idea is that they get to play it early, which is like quote unquote a gift. I don't know. The benefit is they get to play it early, which is like quote unquote better because you get to try it first, but realistically you're just beta testing for free and funding the future game that will be good, so someone else can just buy it and it's finished and it's a good product. I don't know at what point you just throw in the towel, you feel me? Because it's like, if the project started in 2018 and it's going to be, let's say it's mostly finished in 2024, that's 6 years of your life. It's like, I think documentaries have less production time. Like, I don't want to use movies because movies have like billions of dollars, but I just mean like, people make like films in that time. Like 6 years is insane. That should not be a standard. I don't want to say it shouldn't be acceptable. It's like, do whatever you want. Like Dwarf Fortress has been in development for like 20 years. Yeah, sorry, concluding thoughts. It's just that when I compare StoneShard to other indie games, the development feels especially sluggish. It definitely beats out some of the indie games I've bought that are just scams or the development ceased. So, I mean, that's definitely a plus. It seems like the devs are going to finish the game. I just think that they shouldn't take for granted that people might not care anymore by the time they do it. I guess, like, I am kind of suggesting they rush, which is bad, but, like, it's their own game. Like, whose fault would it be? You know what I mean? Like, if it takes 8 years to develop, is that the player's fault? Like, is that on us? I don't really get that. That's what I don't get. Like, what's the other side of this? So, yeah, that's a nice 10-minute rant to end out the video. Thank you for watching. If you somehow did, make sure to slap that like button, slap that comment button, slap that subscribe button. If you want me to make more StoneShard videos, comment StoneShard below. And have a good night, day, or week. Take care. Bye.